Namaskar. Good evening, everyone. I, Mrunal Dhongde, on behalf of Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, take this opportunity to welcome Smt Nirmala Sitharam, Honorable Finance Minister of India, Shri Chandrakant Dada Patil, Honorable Minister of Higher Education and Technology, Maharashtra, Shri Sadananda Phadke, Chairman of the General Body Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, Shri Pradeep Rawatji, former Member of Parliament from Pune, Trustee of the Bhandarkar Institute, Shri Bhupal Patwardhan, Chairman of the Executive Body of the Bhandarkar Institute, Shri Sanjay Pawar, Treasurer of the Bhandarkar Institute. I also heartily welcome all the dignitaries, stalwarts, scholars and researchers in the auditorium. A very warm welcome. I now request Shri Bhupal Patwardhanji to present his opening remarks about the ceremony.
Finance Minister Sitharaman, Honorable Dada. Dada is from our constituency, is our MLA, so he is from our house only. And all dignitaries present over here. I am not going to speak much because time is less. First thing I would like to mention some personalities, some institutes which has helped institute from 2014. And our journey started with a great help from Yardi Systems. Mr. Ashok Kotwal is here, and where we started our digitization. That journey, when that journey started, it was quite difficult. And Yardi Systems doesn't only funded us, but they taught us a new working culture in this new society, because our institute is 105 years old. So it was quite difficult to change the whole ecosystem and a working system. But they insisted on it. And then we started going ahead. Then Infosys Foundation, Mani ma'am is here. They helped us very much. In fact, they are helping us right now also. Again, their help was not only for funding, but as far as working culture, and basically what Infosys has done is to pay well remuneration to the academic people and scholars, which is a very, very big thing and which is very much needed for our Indic studies. So this started, and then we came to this starting this platform where Raj Kothari and Ashok Kothari is here, started a course of learning Sanskrit. And ultimately I would like to take a name of let Rakesh Ji Junjunwala, who has helped us a lot to create this platform. This is a unique platform because of two things. One, as it is said, that our institute is also a first institute in India which has been started by Indians for Indian knowledge. Before that, it was, whether it is Asiatic Society or Deccan College, were started by Europeans. In fact, if we see from 17th century, Europeans started studying our culture. Not only studying but learning our culture and putting it forward to the world. But unfortunately, some of them distorted it. And many of them has written in their own perspective. So this is something new which we want to do, to have our culture in our own perspective. Unfortunately, there are very few cultures which are alive today. Maybe because of natural calamities, maybe because of invasion by Semitic religions. And we are fortunate enough to have our culture, a alive culture, which we have to take ahead in a proper sense. Whenever we study culture, everything is not good. There are some good things, there are some bad things, but we have to see to it that how we can take our culture to present so that the future will be benefited with the thoughts in the culture. Thank you. That's what I have just wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Shri Pradeep Dada Rawat to felicitate our guests of honor today, Srimati Nirmala ji Sitharaman. No introduction is required, naam hi kafi hai. A copy of Bhagavad Puran is being presented to our guest and a copy of History of Dharma Shastra. Thank you, sir. I now request you to felicitate Chandrakant Dada Patil. Thank you, sir. Now let us move to the most awaited part of today's function, the launch of Bharat Vidya platform. May I request Nirmala ji to launch the platform, please? Bharat Vidya platform, the first of its kind online learning platform for the ancient heritage of India and Indian history. Let's celebrate the launch with a huge round of applause. Thank you, madam. उद्यमेन हि सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथैः न हि सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रविशन्ति मुखे मृगाः. The lion may be mighty, but he too has to act for getting his prey. Similarly, though everybody is convinced of the mightiness of India's ancient heritage and history, traditions and knowledge, in order to maintain these and make them flourish, they have to reach the new generation in the manner that is familiar to them. Bharat Vidya platform, the online platform, is an industrious move indeed of the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute to reach the masses. अगर प्यासा कुएं तक ना आए तो कुएं को प्यासे तक जाना पड़ेगा. Let us take a tour of this platform through presentations. May I request Mr. Chinmay Bhandari of Matra Media and Communications Private Limited and Dr. Gauri Moghe, Executive Editor of the Mahabharat Cultural Index and Content Curator of Bori's Digital Initiatives, to make the presentations.
Namaste. So this presentation will take place in two parts. The first part will talk about the platform and its journey. The second presentation will be about the content which will be published on this platform. So this is an absolute honor to be here today in front of this assembly and in front of one of the most respected leaders of this country. And this is a very personal moment as well, because this journey has taken 8 years to reach here. And probably a very interesting part in this is that the Bhandarkar Institute was founded in the age of Indian Renaissance, at the peak of the British rule as well. And today, when India stands at the cusp of the 21st century, which can become the Indian century, the institute is taking a transformative leap. So there is a beautiful symmetry in that. Just give me a moment. What happened? Sorry, just. Oh, okay. It was on the last page. I'm extremely sorry. So in 2014, when we started this journey of digitization at Bhandarkar Institute, there were two goals in the mind. The first goal was of preservation, the precious heritage which is protected in this sanctuary. 1,35,000 books at that point and 28,000 manuscripts. That was the tangible heritage. And the second part was of making this heritage accessible to people at large. But there was something more to it, something that came to us as we moved on, that there was intangible heritage which lies in the fact that how this institute was established and the minds who put their vision into it. Sir R.G. Bhandarkar himself, Lokmanya Tilak, Shri V.S. Suktankar, the founders of institutes, S.K. Bilwalkar. We can take so many names, absolute giants of their field. They put their heart into making this place what it is. And that particular vision had to be taken to people, and that happened in the last 8 years, and we are now at the cusp of taking it to a whole new level. So this is a journey of this process. As I said, we started 8 years ago. We started with online catalog. We scanned around 80 lakh pages in the next 2 years. In 2018, the digital library of the institute, the prototype was published, borylib.com, and we were planning to turn it into a learning platform, not merely a library, but something that captures the essence of a library. So libraries are social institutions where people interact, where different perspectives they converge. So that was the idea of creating something interactive. But at that point itself, the pandemic hit in 2020, and it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. We started our first online course in April 2020 along with Bhandarkar, my team, Heritage India, and it changed the whole trajectory at that point. The numbers are here to see. We interacted with thousands of people in the last 2 years directly through these courses. At the same time, we started digital media outreach. In that digital media outreach, we were active on Twitter, we were active on YouTube, and through those channels, we were reaching to 1 million people every month. And at the very nascent stage of that outreach, something enormous happened, and which was the endorsements of Smt Nirmala ji herself, and it was her sharing our content which took us to a very different stratosphere. So Nirmala ji, thank you so much for that support. It has actually meant a lot to us. And while these numbers are great and we interacted with thousands of people in online courses, there were still some glaring limitations as to what we were doing. And those limitations were quite a few. First of all, through portals like Zoom, there is a limit on the number of people that we can admit. There is not convenience in the sense that any person from anywhere in the world cannot just join at their convenience. So that was another aspect. And thirdly, there is no retention as such. Once the lecture ends, even though we put it on YouTube, it is only going to be there for few days. So a platform where people can come, they can learn at their own convenience, at their own pace, aided with learning resources, something that can help their understanding, something that can help their revision that was needed. And that is where the digital platform came in. And when we were thinking of a name, the only name that we could think of was Bharat Vidya, a platform that takes into account India's ancient heritage and takes it to people in a digestible, convenient, and permanent manner. So what are our goals? The first goal is that we understood in these last 2 years that there are so many areas, schools, individuals who are just curious about this topic, colleges, where there is interest, there is curiosity, but they don't have authentic resources to satiate their need for knowledge. So we can bridge that gap. For schools and colleges which lack trained resources for these topics, this platform can help them. For any enthusiast who wants to just understand what Vedas are, something like what archaeology is, they can come to this platform, understand it. Second part was that we understood during the pandemic that we are touching lives here. There are so many feedbacks where people told us that they were having conversations on Mahabharat during their dinner. They were talking in the morning about what they learned earlier. There were a couple of 11 and 13 years old students in the course of archaeology, and they wanted to pursue a career in that topic. And that particular point takes me to the next area. Somewhere, even today, we understand that there is a dearth of resources for researchers in these topics. Somewhere, these courses, while reaching out to 1 million people, they are going to inspire some people to take up this field as a career option. It shows them that it's a viable alternative. And that is something which is going to need a lot of ecosystem. This entire digital ecosystem of Bhandarkar, which today includes the digital library, digital media channels, now Bharat Vidya, it revolves around 3 R's. The first is research, the very reason of existence of this institute. The research which happens here, it should reach out to people. It should lead to education. It was a part of the vision which led to the foundation of this institute in 1910s. And while we reach out to people, to generate a new generation of researchers, to create new research, there has to be revenue to support it. And that revenue is critical to attract this new talent, the new researchers which are going to take their place in the future. So this is the trifecta that we look at. Now, in the next 18 months and 12 months, we have a lot to cover. We always feel that any critical juncture, it is just a beginning. And today marks another beginning for us. Bharat Vidya, the platform, it actually exists at a very peculiar intersection. There are not many online learning platforms in the area of humanities or especially history. The platforms which exist, they largely revolve around documentaries. Secondly, there are not many platforms of this kind in India itself that cater to India's needs, what Indian user needs and what their experience is. So we are going to learn in these next few months as to what exactly people want from us, how we can satisfy their expectations. It could be multilingual courses where audio tracks are different. It could be more interactive sessions. So we need to understand that, and that will be our primary focus. Second part is infrastructure. Just creating this 100 hours of content, it has taken a lot to reach here. So we need to build a digital lab, a proper studio. We need to hire many human resources. And that ecosystem is going to be very crucial to the journey ahead. Our next goal is ambitious, and we have actually very reached close to us. We want to reach out to 1 crore people in next 18 months. A point where a platform like Bharat Vidya becomes a part of people's life. Just like any daily newspaper, any media channel, when people want to learn about this topic, they should think of Bharat Vidya, they should know Bharat Vidya. And to reach there, what we are going to need is a great amount of content, which is research-based, which is rational and authentic. And we aim to create 1,000 hours of learning content in next 2 years. And this is where our next presentation will come in, which will talk about the direction of the content. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks. Yes. The next will be delivered by Dr. Gauri Moghe, the executive editor of Mahabharata Cultural Index and the content curator of Bharat Vidya.
Namaste. It is an honor to be in this gathering in the presence of Honorable Smt Nirmala Sitharam ji. Kindly accept my humble greetings. My humble greetings to all present here and all the dignitaries and my teachers who are present here. I am here to outline the content and academic vision of the digital platform Bharat Vidya. So in the beginning, let's look at a few glimpses of the digital platform's content. And now I would like to request Mr. Mithilesh to play a small AV.
Om yajnena yajnai yajnai yajnena yajnena yajnam यज्ञमो यजन्ता यजन्त यज्ञै यज्ञमो यजन्ता अयजन्त देवा देवा अयजन्ता यजन्त देवाः.
We have seen Nasadiya Sukta, Purusha Sukta, Hiranyagarbha Sukta and so on. The same principles expressed in Rigveda are repeated in the Atharva Veda. The main objective is that man should remain free from different types of problems. Whatever has been created in this world has been thought over in the Atharva Veda.
Telling what archaeology is, it is a study of the human past. It's a very broad definition I'm giving. We are curious about our ancestors. Our ancestors, like we live, they also lived. They had certain culture, they had certain social formations, social structures, economic activities. They lived, they ate, they used certain sort of clothes. In other words, like we are, they were there.
नमो नमः. संस्कृतवर्गे सर्वेषां स्वागतम्. In the previous video, we have learned how to pronounce Sanskrit alphabets, Varnamala. In this video, we will learn more about Sanskrit alphabets, Swaraha, Vyanjanani, vowels and consonants, and we will also learn how to write them correctly with right strokes. Few examples of words starting with a. Ajah. Let us do exercise. Chitram drushtva naam vadata. See the picture and identify the object. Chintayatu. Think. Vadatu. Tell.
Kalidas himself says in Abhijnana Shakuntalam that bhavitavyanam dwarani bhavanti sarvatra. It means that the thing which one is destined to get can be obtained anyhow, anywhere and any time. Something similar happened to Kalidas as well.
So, as we have just seen in this short video, we at Bharat Vidya offer 6 courses at the outset. 3 of them are entirely new courses. So, the first will be Veda Vidya Part 1, Vedas to Vedangas. This is the first course in a series of classes that will explore the Vedic world. In this course, we introduce the 4 stages of Vedic literature. It considers both academic and traditional methods. Along with the lectures on key concepts and contents, this course includes footage of mantra pathana, yajna shala, and documentation of yajna. The second and advanced level of the course Veda Vidya will be launched soon. Then we have an introductory course in Hindi on darshanas. The course named Bharatiya Darshan Shastra Ek Parichay gives an outline of the great tradition of Indian philosophy based on 9 Astika and Nastika darshanas. The course designed in 10 lectures which discuss the fundamentals of 9 schools of darshanas like Sankhya, Yoga. On the platform of Bharat Vidya, we introduce a Sanskrit learning course specially designed for beginners aiming to learn the Sanskrit language. The course offers students many interesting learning techniques, illustrations, audiovisual aids and exercises. Due to a generous grant from the Kothari Foundation, this course, Digital Sanskrit Learning, will be free for all the students and participants. Then we have a critically and popularly acclaimed course, 18 Parvans of Mahabharata, Introduction to an Incredible Epic, which reveals the unexplored aspects of the epic through the 18 Parvans. Then we have the course, Kalidasa and Bhasa, 2 icons and 2 iconic plays, which offers an experience of the beauty and grandeur of the great Sanskrit dramas through the performance-based exposition of Kalidasa's Shakuntala and Bhasa's play Karnabhara. Then, the fascinating science of archaeology is a key to understanding our origins and their environment. So, we offer a one-of-its-kind online course on archaeology. The course Fundamentals of Archaeology provides a complete insight into the basic and significant aspects of archaeology. Through the plan of these particular 6 courses, we wish to cover the span from Vedas as very origin and beginning, moving further through the ancient representation of the epic, philosophy, golden age of Sanskrit literature, and scientific approach to understanding the past through archaeological perspective. In the upcoming 12 to 18 months, we plan to launch courses and documentaries on a vast array of topics such as ancient Indian oral tradition of the Vedas, Upanishads, Niti, Dharma Shastra, both the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata, Buddhism and Jainism, dance and drama, architecture, astronomy, mathematics, science and medicine, political and material history, ancient India's global footprint, world history, and some interdisciplinary courses as well. We are also collaborating with other institutions which have expertise in other areas, and all these courses will be compliant with the new national education policy. As we move towards the revival of Indian knowledge systems envisioned in the new national education policy, this is an opportunity to move in that direction. Hence, we are creating a 2-year content architecture comprising courses on diverse topics and adhering to interdisciplinary connections and logical progression. This can be a new paradigm for our education system. I think this effort will lead us to our ancient roots to understand the Bharatiyatva. This platform will be a bridge that brings the ancient knowledge of centuries to the current century. I humbly request all and propose an appeal to people to participate and spread the word further. This is an opportunity to awaken, to become self-aware. And finally, at this moment, at the launch of Bharat Vidya, I remember the inspiring words of Dr. V.S. Suktankar, the first general editor of critical edition of Mahabharata. I quote, with a slight alteration, "It is, in other words, the content of our collective unconscious. We must therefore grasp this great opportunity with both hands," I unquote. And hence I conclude with the Upanishadic phrase, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapyavara Nibodhata. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinmay and Gauri. That was a wonderful peek. Indeed, loads of good wishes to the initiative from all of us. Any project is supported by several able hands, and this is an excellent opportunity to recognize the hard work put in by the team that has been relentlessly toiling to make this dream come to reality. May I request Nirmala ji to felicitate the digital team and the donors, please. Your pat on their back will mean a lot to them. Dr. Gauri Moghe. Chinmay Bhandari. Mithilesh Kulkarni. तुषार कुलकर्णी. Yogen Khati. Unfortunately, he could not make it today. Gauri Velankar. Aditi Harshe. Sagar Shelar. Anil Sawant, now let us put our hands together to acknowledge those who have guided this digital journey. Mr. Amit Paranspe, Mr. Makaranda Gadre, finally, last but not the least, let us felicitate the donors whose support has made this journey possible. Mr. Ashok Kotwal, the representative of the Yardi Systems and Yardi family, who sponsored the digitization mission. Mr. Ashok Kothari of Kothari Foundation. They have sponsored the online Sanskrit learning course. Nothing is possible without vitamin M. Thank you very much, all of the donors. Thank you, madam. I now request Honorable Chandrakantji Patil to address all of us.
भांडारकर ओरिएंटल रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट की ओर से डिज़ाइन किया हुआ भारत विद्या ऑनलाइन पोर्टल लॉन्चिंग के इस कार्यक्रम में यहाँ उपस्थित रहने से इस कार्यक्रम की गरिमा बढ़ गई, ऊंचाई बढ़ गई। से केंद्रीय फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर आदरणीय निर्मला सीतारमण जी, पुणे के सांसद रहे, लेकिन हर विषय में पुणे के जो इन्वॉल्व रहते हैं, पढ़ाई और पढ़ने के बाद लिखना इसके लिए बहुत मशहूर है। देश के वाजपेयी जी के मिनिस्ट्री में जिनको कई न मिलने वाली किताबों के लिए कई केंद्रीय मंत्री भी कांटेक्ट करते थे कि भाई ये किताब आप प्राप्त करके दो। ऐसे अपने में से ही एक्स मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट प्रदीप रावत जी, इस इंस्टीट्यूट के सर्वसाधारण सभा के अध्यक्ष एडवोकेट सदानंद फड़के जी, कार्यकारी मंडल के अध्यक्ष, शायद उनको अच्छा नहीं लगेगा कि जिन्होंने जिम्मेवारी लेने के बाद ही बड़े स्पीड से इस कैंपस में गतिविधि शुरू हुई, ऐसे भूपाल पटवर्धन जी, सचिव प्राध्यापक सुधीर वैशंपायन जी, सभी उपस्थित मान्यवर। एक बड़ी आवश्यकता जिसको हम सब लोग महसूस करते हैं कि ईस्वी सन 2000 के बाद का इतिहास तो लिखा जाता है, पढ़ाया जाता है, हम समझते हैं। उसके पहले के इतिहास के बारे में, उसके पहले के अलग अलग विद्याओं के बारे में यह कई बार माना जाता है कि ये हुआ है कि नहीं, यह न हुए चीज़ें बताई जाती है क्या। तो ऐसे सारे विषयों पर संशोधन होना, संशोधन होकर लोगों के समझने वाली भाषा में सामने लाना, ये बड़ी आवश्यकता थी जो भंडारकर इंस्टीट्यूट ने पूरी की। 105 साल की पुरानी परंपरा इस इंस्टीट्यूट की है, जो लगातार इस पर काम कर रहे हैं कि कई प्राच्य विद्याओं को संशोधन किया जाए। संशोधन करते हुए अपने पास ही न रखते हुए जो अपने परंपरा की थोड़ी दिक्कत भी रही कि चीज़ें लिखना नहीं, चीज़ें बताना नहीं, चीज़ें सिखाना नहीं, तो भांडारकर इंस्टीट्यूट ने ये प्रयत्न हमेशा रखा कि जो हम रिसर्च करेंगे वो लिखेंगे, लोगों के सामने लाएंगे, अलग अलग लेक्चर्स के माध्यम के से लोगों को समझाएंगे। तो इसमें एक बड़ा चरण, बिग स्टेप उन्होंने लिए है कि इस प्रकार का भारत विद्या नाम का पोर्टल उन्होंने डेवलप किया। मैंने कार्यक्रम को आने का तय करने के पहले उनको पूछा कि भाई क्या इसकी आवश्यकता है, क्या इसकी उपयोगिता है। तो उन्होंने बताया कि कोविड के समय में ऑनलाइन ये सारे कोर्सेज जब हमने शुरू किए तो रिस्पांस तो अच्छा मिला, लेकिन लोगों से ये बात चली कि भाई कोविड के बाद ये टाइम बाउंड हम इस प्रकार के ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन में उपस्थित नहीं रह पाएंगे। तो इसका एक पोर्टल डेवलप हो, ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन डेवलप हो कि जिसको हम कभी भी एक्सेस कर पाएंगे, समय है तो एक्सेस कर पाएंगे, बार बार एक्सेस कर पाएंगे। तो उससे कुछ लोगों ने, जैसे सबका सम्मान या हुआ, मैं सबका अभिनंदन करता हूँ। भंडारकर इंस्टीट्यूट का भी अभिनंदन करता हूँ कि उन्होंने इस प्रकार का बड़ा इनिशिएटिव लिया और उनके मार्गदर्शन से, उनके प्रेरणा से जो पूरी टीम जिनका सम्मान हुआ, उन्होंने इस प्रकार से पहले 6 अलग अलग टॉपिक्स के बारे में यह ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन शुरू किया है। मैं राज्य के उच्च शिक्षा मंत्री के नाते यह सजेस्ट करूंगा कि माननीय मोदी जी ने जो नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी लाई है, मैं उसको न्यू नहीं कहता हूँ, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा धोरण, जिस शिक्षा धोरण में यह सारी बातें अंतर्भूत है। सालों से हमने हमारी विरासत को सुनना भी डर के मारे आवश्यक नहीं माना कि नहीं ये मत सुनो, ये मत पढ़ो, ये मत बताओ। तो ऐसी सारी चीज़ों को स्वाभिमान से लोगों के सामने लाने का प्रयत्न और इस प्रकार की सारी पुरानी प्राच्य विद्या सामने लाते वक्त दुनिया जिस ओर जा रहा है उस दुनिया की स्पीड को भी पकड़ना। जैसे अभी राजभवन में 15 दिन पहले अमेरिका की 22 यूनिवर्सिटी के वाइस चांसलर आए थे, महाराष्ट्र के सभी वाइस चांसलर आए और एक आदान प्रदान हुआ कि हमारे जो स्टूडेंट्स वहाँ जाते हैं वो बहुत आसानी से कैसे जाएंगे, उनको अलग अलग कोर्सेज का ज्ञान कैसा होगा, उनको किस प्रकार से वहाँ की सुविधा होगी। तो वहाँ के यूनिवर्सिटियों ने भी ये इंटरेस्ट दिखाया कि यहाँ भी कई बातें हैं, म्यूज़िक है, यहाँ योगा है, जो हमारे स्टूडेंट भी बहुत अच्छी तरह से पढ़ना चाहते हैं। तो अभी 2 दिन के बाद, यानी होकर 15 दिन में नहीं हुआ ये इंटरेक्शन, तो 2 दिन के बाद 2 बड़े एग्रीमेंट अभी होने जा रहे हैं। तो कल्पना ही ये है कि प्राच्य विद्या के संशोधन के साथ साथ, प्राच्य विद्या के अभ्यास के बाद साथ साथ दुनिया जिस ओर जा रही है उस दिशा को भी पकड़ना। तो इसलिए मैं ये चाहूँगा कि पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ आपका एग्रीमेंट हो, टाइप हो, उसको विश्वविद्यालय की मान्यता मिले, यहाँ के क्रेडिट पॉइंट्स जो होंगे इस प्रकार के ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन के, जो अलग अलग बाकी एजुकेशन में भी हम सबको उपयोग में आएंगे। एक माननीय मोदी जी ने जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में ये भी कहा है कि ये जो परंपरागत रहा, आर्ट्स में गया तो सिर्फ आर्ट्स का सब्जेक्ट पढ़ेगा, साइंस के गया तो साइंस में पढ़ेगा, ऐसा ना होते हुए परसों अमरावती यूनिवर्सिटी ने पहला इनिशिएटिव लॉन्च भी किया। मैं ऑनलाइन वहाँ उपस्थित था और 70 महाविद्यालयों में, 70 कॉलेजेस में सारे इस विषय को समझकर आगे लेकर जाने वाले ऑनलाइन उपस्थित थे कि जिसमें उन्होंने जो मोदी जी को कल्पना है कि किसी एक फैकल्टी में वो एक्सपर्ट न बनते हुए वो 2 आर्ट्स के सब्जेक्ट भी ले, 3 कॉमर्स के सब्जेक्ट भी ले, 4 साइंस के सब्जेक्ट भी ले, कोई म्यूज़िक भी ले, योगा भी ले, इस प्रकार की प्राच्य विद्या के कुछ विषय ले, मिलकर उसकी डिग्री बनेगी। उसमें से जिस फैकल्टी में, जिस विषय में वो करियर बनाना चाहता है उसको 70% वेटेज रहेगा, लेकिन साथ साथ 30% वेटेज वाले बाकी विषय भी वो सीखे ताकि उसका व्यक्तिमत्व वर्सटाइल हो और पैसे कमाने के लिए नौकरी के साथ साथ, बिजनेस के साथ साथ बाकी सारे विषयों का भी वो आनंद ले। तो मुझे लगता है कि उस दृष्टि से मैं पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी के वाइस चांसलर से बात करूंगा, एक कंबाइन मीटिंग करके, थोड़ी हुई है ऐसे भूषण जी बता रहे थे, और इसको एक प्रतिष्ठा भी प्राप्त करके देंगे, ताकि आगे जाकर अलग अलग कोर्सेस में इसके क्रेडिट पॉइंट्स भी उपयोगी आएंगे। मैं फिर से एक बार भंडारकर इंस्टीट्यूट जो लगातार कई संघर्षों के बाद, इस संघर्षों की जानकारी हम सबको है, कई संघर्षों के बाद अपना मिशन न छोड़ते हुए बहुत डट कर आगे जा रही है, उनको भी अभिनंदन करता हूँ। इस पोर्टल के लॉन्चिंग के लिए बधाई देता हूँ। और सबसे महत्व की बात, जो टीम यहाँ थी, जिसका मुझे आश्चर्य लगा, कि मुझे लगा कि बहुत सालों से, बहुत इसमें पढ़ाई करने के बाद, बहुत आयु होने वाले सारे लोग इसमें लगे होंगे, तो सारे तरुणाई सामने आई है कि जिन्होंने इस विषय में स्टडी किया और ये लोगों को तक जाने का प्रयत्न किया। तो यह भी एक बड़ी अच्छी बात है कि अब ऐसे सारे विषयों में तरुणाई में भी उत्सुकता बढ़ रही है। उनको सिर्फ लॉजिक चाहिए। आखिर में एक बात कहते हुए मैं इस विषय को समाप्त करता हूँ। ये मेरी अपेक्षा है कि माननीय मोदी जी ने अब सारी शिक्षा अपनी मातृभाषा में हो, इसका आग्रह किया है। परसों मैंने डिक्लेयर किया कि पॉलिटेक्निक इंजीनियरिंग के सारे किताब 31 दिसंबर तक हम मराठी में करेंगे। तो इस विषय को भी थोड़ा मराठी माध्यम को उपयोग में लाते हैं तो हम जैसे गांव से आने वाले लोगों के लिए लाभदायक रहेगा, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। फिर से एक बार आपका अभिनंदन और शुभेच्छा।
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging and enlightening words. I now request Honorable Finance Minister Smt Nirmala ji to address the gathering.
Namaste. Chandrakant Dada Patil and all other dignitaries on the dais. Pune's thinking elite. It will be an understatement if I start by saying it gives me pleasure to be here. It's not pleasure. I'm absolutely humbled by this institute. Every time I think about it, every time my family has spoken to me about it, and every time we recall the kind of contribution you have made, not just for Pune, not just for Maharashtra, but for the entire country. It's a marathon that you have done, and I genuinely feel it's a historic service. It's a service which cannot be compared with any other similarly placed institutions anywhere in the world. I'm not exaggerating, but the first 48 years of absolute intellectual toil, pulling through patiently and making sure that the board of scholars who were looking at Mahabharata, the various versions which were available, dissensions as they would refer to it. But after that, without losing any the spirit, or without getting demoralized by the time which it takes to do such a mammoth exercise, to come up with a critical edition is just the biggest, if you call, there should be a huge obelisk at the beginning of, or the entrance of this place, worship-worthy obelisk made of a single granite, I would think, because that is the kind of contribution you have made to a country which takes equally a lot of pride in the various versions, regional variants, and so on. But actually, what is it? Are there extrapolations which have to be removed? Are there any kind of overlaps which have to be identified without affecting the original's credible version? That kind of work done over 48 years was, of course, released by Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. And I was just looking at the dates. It happens to be 56 years tomorrow morning. September 22nd is when I think it was released. And what a coincidence that I am here. But I repeat, it's an humbling experience. The endurance with which you have gone through that exercise. And today, anyone talking about Mahabharata cannot but start with the critical edition. So it's a fantastic contribution. And all of us in India will have to be proud that there is an institution which just kept doing it and reached that kind of a level. And obviously after that you also brought in the critical edition of Vishnu Purana. Mahabharata once in 1966 probably, and then within a couple of years the Vishnu Purana critical edition. So this kind of a beginning for an institution in 1917 and carrying that tradition forward. You've of course come up with the history of Dharma Shastra, 3 fantastic epics which have been redone in a way. So the contribution of Bhandarkar is something which, at least in my family, families similarly placed like mine, have all always looked up to. So I'm standing here in Pune, which by itself is a flag bearer of India's culture. The contribution that you have made, the city Pune and Bhandarkar on its own, one can wax eloquent for several hours, because distinctly the kind of scholarship that you have infused into the center. It's nice and gladdening to know that today you have sponsors who have come in to give you that kind of resources with which you're able to pay better, reward scholars better. But between 1917 and till about 1980, I would have thought that kind of luxury was not available. But even in spite of that, the contribution that this place has made is naman worthy. I can't say anything more. What can really compensate for the work that it has been done? So if you made landmark contribution in the 20th century, 21st century also requires your toil, your seva. And in that, you've already within the first 2 decades shown, and particularly in the last 2 very troublesome years, you have shown that you can adapt to the growing needs of the world. Scholarship is no longer just going to be confined to books and papers. People want it through the digital medium. And today, by launching this platform, you've done a brilliant work. You've just readied yourself for anybody who can access. I mean, that little metaphor which was used, if the well can go to the scholars, so should it. It's no more bring the horse to the water. Now the water is going to the horse, it may as well drink it. So the kind of foresightedness that you've shown, and the young team which has mastered not just using technology, but has used it in a very constructive fashion for Indians to be comfortably accessing everything that which you had to run from one pillar to another post to search for documents. So it is one thing to have nearly 28,000 manuscripts which have been collected over the decades of century and kept in good safe custody. But now to be able to access it through digital means is something which is a great leap forward in being able to share India's contribution to the global thinking. There are times when talking about the new education policy, the national education policy, we are able to understand now we will have to now look at the way in which our own thinking, our own philosophy are all projected to our children, taught to our children, and also the way in which we are able to share further knowledge in it. The approach that Vasant Dada Patil, Chandrakant Dada Patil spoke about, multidisciplinary. So have the credits obtained here, but also pass it on to the university where you're doing the main course is a very good step in the right direction. And students should be encouraged to take up such courses so that once they are into their professions, they can pursue their interest. Today what we are seeing is many of the students, particularly many in Infosys-like organizations, excellent engineers, software specialists, cultivate an interest after they go into their professions, that they want to learn Sanskrit, they want to know more about our Vedas, they want to access it, they want to have rigorous learning. They cull out time from their professional life and access and go in search of scholars who can help them do. But this is what is going to help them wherever, whichever part of the world they are going to be in. So the course will have to have both the credits for the young students for taking it as a part of the multidisciplinary learning, but also be ready for those adult learners who will actually have greater intense learning drive within themselves. They are the ones who are going to be able to contribute, because most of the time you find when a person comes on his own to have to acquire some specialization, he acquires it with such zest, which is going to be enabled by your portal. So I like to just underline the fact that the work that you're doing is of immense value for India. The reference in several contexts to the Honorable Prime Minister's desire that we make sure that, particularly when he spoke about the Panch Pran during the Red Fort address, didn't he very clearly tell us that we have to recall, remember and understand what is India's heritage? Forget and let it go, the legacy of the rulers of the imperial days, but equally acquire respect and knowledge about all that is very Indian. In such a kind of a call, I find that institutions like Bhandarkar are the ones who are going to be able to give us substantive content for the dialogue, content for everything that you're going to do in that regard. And the next 25 years, it can't just be, it's part of the curriculum. So we've given one section, one chapter in our history books or one chapter in our sociology, but it has to be so infused into everything that we do, so infused into our education system. Because I think if you want to understand India, if you want to get a sense of India, if you want to literally feel the pulse and experience India, it has to be understood through understanding India's that unity in everything that has been developed over the century, whether it's art, whether it is architecture, whether it is your science, whether it is your medicine, whether it is history, whether it is your music, whether it's anything panning into culture. There is a sense of unity. All these have grown in similar lines, and therefore when you look at India, everything unites to give that image, that experience, that sense, that spirit of India. So unless we have this revived for those who are Indians, but still who should get that sense, experience that spirit of that unity in every field, which all of which actually nicely, like a pyramid, go to give us the pinnacle, which is the sense of India. And in all this, who can forget? And of course that gets reflected in Mahabharata and every bit. Dharma is the foundation. That's the foundation of this ancient civilization. And I was so touched you gave me a copy of the history of Dharma Shastra. Everything that which actually is relevant for knowing, or the questions which are asked about human existence, the questions that are asked about self, the questions that are asked about self together in relationship with one another, or that one another can be single individual or a collective. These questions are answered in the context and in the frame of Dharma. So unless that is understood, and that is not just a black and white, It sets also, and I don't need to talk before this learned audience, but I'm just justifying the work which you're doing from the point of view of somebody who's outside of it and values the whole thing. So when you're really talking about that foundation for this ancient, civilization, those questions being answered are universal questions. They're not attributable to one part of India or one part of Asia, but they are universal. Even today, people are asking questions about what's me, who's me, and what do I have to do with, as existing individual with the rest of them. These are questions which are there in everybody's mind. But of course, some of them are able to articulate it better and some others toil with it inside. But this has to be understood in the context of the dharma, which also sets a beautiful, range of things before us about the ideal, moral, ethical framework within which we all live. And it is again not black and white. That's why most people who talk about dharma start with a statement, it's sukshma. It's very subtle. It varies along with shades. So what is good today, desha, kala, what is good today may not be good tomorrow, may be good in a slightly different shade, and that is the beauty of dharma, and that is why I think like no other code of ethics, I'm not reducing dharma to code of ethics, but like no other code of ethics, you even have a apatkala dharma. So it gives you guidance on everything that you can do at good times, bad times, troubled times, challenging times, when times threaten your life, everything. So when you're bringing out books like Mahabharata, you are actually highlighting the weaving into everyone's life, a king's life, an advisor's life, a slave's life, an adopted man's life, the play of dharma. And that is why when scholars look into it, not just as a document through which very many of our religious matters have been discussed, it's also a document which gives you, in crystal clear manner, woven into the experience, living experience of individual, how dharma plays out and how it either calms you down or makes you question yourself. So when institutions like Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institution go into these details, get it online on platforms, speak and write and convey in such language of today's youth. In fact, before coming here and 1 month ago, I had listened to some of these little podcasts that you have, podcasts or on the platform. They are so very well designed. You can just give your time, listen to it, and then go about thinking about it as and when you want and go back to it. I praise and put on the table my appreciation for readying India's wealth in terms of our literature, in terms of our knowledge, which has been oral for a long time, then got codified, then got into the form of documents and books which you could publish authentically. And today you've even entered the digital domain, and in such alluring fashion, it's actually, it attracts you to want to listen to it. So all appreciation for the board members of Bhandarkar Institute, all appreciation for the team which has done this, and all appreciation for people who support such an exercise. There may have been disappointing or sad times when you think, where are we going to get these materials from if we want to have some correction done to our curriculum? That has never worried me as a person, particularly because I've had information, knowledge being shared about many of our Oriental institutions, particularly about Bhandarkar. So I'm so glad to be here today. But every time I say glad or pleasure, equally I say I'm humbled for the extraordinary work that you have done an extraordinary way in which you're entering into the 21st century. This is a great service you've done for the nation, as much as those scholars in various languages. I know in Tamil wouldn't be seeing many of those great literature from Sangam era, but for people like Ube Swaminath Iyer, who went from village to collect manuscripts. Like that, in Maharashtra, everywhere you've had some individuals totally committing and dedicating themselves to ensure that this is not lost forever. And in that league, there are several individuals you can come up with. I was only a few days ago fortunate to talk with some people about Indian philosophy and the set of books written by Surendranath Banerjee. Astonishing, right? A crystal clear talking about what Indian philosophy. So if there are people in Tamil Nadu, Bengal, Maharashtra, these are individuals who have sacrificed their time. What kind of returns did they get? What kind of monetary benefits did they get? But they went about it. Even then they were supported by great lot of donors. And it is through donors such institutions have really carved out this service for the country. And I do not want to expand on this, but the work that you're doing, the support that you're receiving, I pray to God and all of us will do our little might to help that you are adequately funded for all the great work that you're doing. I thank the organizers and the management for thinking that it is fit to call me to be with you all. I greatly admire this institution and I wish you very well. You should have several more centuries of seva to Bharat Mata. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your warm appreciation. I assure you on behalf of the Institute that we'll leave no stone unturned to play our part in nurturing the spirit of India. May I now request Shri Pradeep Rawatji, chair of today's event, to address all of us.
Honorable Nirmala Sitharam ji, distinguished diet, brothers and sisters, Bhandarkar Oriental Institute is the child of भारतीय रेनेसां एंड रिफॉर्मेशन. ये हमारे प्रबोधन युग का अपत्य है. Yes, it is true that we have a glorious past, but we are not satisfied with that. Our aim is, and we believe, that the golden age lies in the future. And with that conviction, we have started on a new journey. It is a fact that the modern identity of Bharata has deep roots, which we call as Bharat Vidya. It has shaped our civilization. And as Nirmala ji rightly said, that this civilization has created over historical times a unity among peoples. And that unity is the strength of today's Bharat. And therefore, we have rightly decided that our treasures will not be confined only to the scholars, accessible to them, but we have created an outreach program. We have created an intellectual mobility. There will be speed and also we can maneuver in different manner. That is mobility. And to reach out to the new generations, not only in India, but the world over. To give a flavor of what our civilization is, so that will inspire us, that will give us strength to search answers in our own future. It's an ongoing project that on the ethical dimension and the material dimension we have to progress. And there lies the studies, various kind of programs which we have undertaken. The most significant aspect of our program is, and our success is, to attract young generation. And we could do this only because of these various donors. As we know that Yardi Systems, the Kothari Foundation, or Regulatory Council Chairman Abhay Firodia ji, Infosys, and now individually Murthy Foundation, Sudha Murthy ji. And there are many people because of these material resources. And then we have got a fantastic team of young scholars who are innovative, and they are presenting this content in such a fashion that it has been acknowledged and supported by Nirmala ji and our Honorable Prime Minister too, in his Mann Ki Baat, has given our online project an appreciation. So with that kind of Ashirwad, I think Bhandarkar Institute, along with many other institutions, we are not going to go alone. We have taken with us Deccan College, we have taken Bharat Vidya Sanshodhan Mandal, Prachya Vidya Sanshodhan Mandal, Dulia's Vagadevta Mandir. All these institutions are more than 100 years old. And through a collaboration of our strengths, we will become the backbone of Bharat Vidya. That is our commitment. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I now request Advocate Sadanand Phadke ji to present a vote of thanks.
We have come here for the opening of the platform named by Bharat Vidya. Nirmala ji, we have taken this name based on two stanzas. First is from Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Phullara Vinda Yatapatra Netra Tena Tvaya Bharat Taila Purna Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradeep. So that Bharat word we have taken for Bharat Vidya. And the second, the word Vidya. You have referred in your speech about Vishnu Puran. In the first skanda of Vishnu Puran, Adhyay 19 and stanza 41. That is, Tat karma yanda bandhaya sa vidya ya vimuktaye aya saya param karma vidyanya shaila nepunam. Sa vidya ya vimuktaye. So we have taken the word Vidya from that shloka and Bharat from the shloka of Bhagavad Gita's commentary. We are really very happy to have your presence here. We know the way in which you are giving the answers in Parliament, particularly, I am telling you the youngsters, they were telling me the way in which you were replying to the people who were objecting about the transparency of Prime Minister Fund. At that time, the way in which you were delivering your dialogues, every one of us remember, Tevha kuthe gela hota tuja dharma. This question was asked by Krishna to Karna When he started to speak the language of dharma, at that time Krishna was asking him, where were you and your religion and your dharma? The same tone was there in your speech. We really appreciate that. Your presence has graced the occasion. We are really thankful. It is a teamwork. We know that we have accepted the Himalayan task. We have to take out the Navaneet, which is called as Makhan, from the rich heritage of our old Sanskriti. And your support has given us the strength. I am really thankful to the donors, because I know Shateshu Jayate Shuraha Sahasreshu Cha Panditaha Vakta Dasha Sahasreshu Data Bhavati Vanava. So that donors, including Infosys, Murthy Foundation, Kothari and Yardi, we are really thankful to you. This is a teamwork, all the technicians, then dignitaries, then the scholars who have already given their time, their knowledge, their experience with us. And with your encouraging speech, we are sure that we are going to achieve our path. We are going to achieve our goal, that we will bring this knowledge to the notice of the world at large. That is what we are planning. We are really thankful to you for your presence. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of Bhandarkar Oriental and Research Institute, I thank all the dignitaries on the stage and in the auditorium, all the donors and everyone who has contributed in making this initiative and this event a great success. Thank you, everyone.